What's up guys, my name's Brandon and Apple just released iOS 27 Beta 3 to registered developers right on time 2 weeks after the release of Beta 2. Now along with this update, Apple also pushed out the third beta for iPadOS 27, watchOS 27, macOS 27 Golden Gate, tvOS and HomePod 27, along with visionOS 27 Beta 3. But of course in this video we're talking all about iOS 27 Beta 3 and everything new in the update, starting with the massive size of this update, coming in at 15.6 gigabytes on my iPhone 17 Pro Max. Now, of course, keep in mind, you're not actually losing that amount of space on your device, but that is just the update size, which is very large, especially coming from a second beta. Let's go ahead and check out, before we talk about the new features and changes, let's go ahead and talk about the new build number and modem version. So the new build number here for Beta 3 is 24A5380H. And then if it go back and go down to the modem firmware, that is now sitting at 2.09.00 for the iPhone 17 series. So if you had any issues with the modem or connectivity, cell connectivity before, those could be resolved with this modem firmware update. All right, so now what's new here in iOS 27 Beta 3? And we're going to start off with some app icon updates. So if you pull up Beta 2 over here on the left, Beta 3 on the right, you can see that we have a change for the Reminders applications. The Reminders app icon has a slightly new look. The little circles there that indicate a reminder now are no longer filled. It's more of the outline. And there's also a slightly updated app icon for the feedback application. So it's no longer more of a gradient like it was in betas 1 and 2. It's now more of just a white little bubble there with the exclamation point in the middle. But let's switch our app icons into clear because we also have a pretty big change here as well. And you'll probably notice this right away if you were somebody using the clear icons all along. And that is that the liquid glass icons for clear are completely fixed now. So if you take a look at the borders, you might have to look closely at this and you may not notice this unless you were already previously using the more liquid glass icons, the clear icons like this, but they are now much better. They're not over sharpened like they were before. They don't have that little black border around certain parts, like especially with camera. Take a look at the camera app icon and you can see that the icon just looks much better, more refined. And actually one more example I'll show you is with the Photos application. Take a look at how many black borders were around that icon before, and now it looks much cleaner in Beta 3. And if we pull down the control center, take a look up in the status bar. We now have 5G along with our Wi-Fi connection. So now both of those icons display together in the control center. Before, it was just one or the other. So in Beta 2, if I were to turn Wi-Fi off, it will show up top now Verizon and 5G if I had a signal. But now in Beta 3, it shows both simultaneously. It shows the 5G Verizon and Wi-Fi. And this could be related to the new connectivity features. So if we go into our Wi-Fi settings and go down here to connectivity assist, this could be like a change added because of the connectivity assist feature, which uses cell data in addition to Wi-Fi for a more reliable connection. And speaking of the control center, if we go to add a control to the control center, you'll see a couple of differences here. First off, the app icons are now reflective of what you have on the home screen. So since I have the clear app icons here on Beta 3, it shows these as clear icons, whereas before it just showed the default icon no matter what you had on the home screen. Also, search controls up here is much more opaque than it was before. It's more of like a gray before. Now it's more of a white in that search bar there. And then also down here under vision accessibility, we have a new one. And that is the first one in the second row called show borders. We did not have a show borders before, but now we have a quick shortcut for the show borders accessibility option. We can add in here to the control center. It shows up right there. And now it will show borders around all of your, icons and things like that throughout the OS, since it does, make it a little bit easier to see with liquid glass. Okay, so here's a change in Beta 3 that might be a bug, but I'm kind of hoping that it's not because it's actually pretty cool and immersive. So in iOS 27 Beta 2, if you pull down on the notification center and got to this point, you would not see anything on your lock screen. So you can see that when I let go now, it shows the full image there. That's me at F1 and it shows that as my lock screen. Cool, that's awesome. But now in Beta 3, check this out. If I pull it down, you can see an outline of myself, the subject there, as I'm pulling down the notification center. So take a look at that. And then when I go all the way down, it kind of brings the background effect in. So that is super cool. It also shows up like in applications. If I were to go into an application and pull down, you can kind of see myself, like my body, on top of the subjects inside of the application. So that's why I think that this could be a bug because of this, but it might not be, because this also only shows up if you do not have any notification bubbles on your notification center. So if I had notifications, it would not actually show me, but that's just a pretty cool change here. And I'm really hoping that's not a bug, because it's kind of funny if it's like me, but it's also really cool if it's like an actual background that you have with a subject cut out. Okay, so you guys know in iOS 27 beta 1, we had a lot of indexing going on. Like the indexing took, up to 2 weeks, maybe more for some people. It took me 10 days before indexing went away. And then when I updated to beta 2, I did not have any indexing whatsoever. At least I didn't have a pop-up telling me it was indexing. But that changes with beta 3, because now when you update to beta 3, you'll see in the settings, optimizing search in Siri. So this was there in beta 2 for some people, but it was not, I would say, for the majority of people. It wasn't for me and most people I talked to. But if you go into optimizing search in Siri, it will tell you that it's basically indexing. So it says you can use your iPhone as you normally would. Indexing improves search starting with your most recent data and can take a while. Longer charging sessions help indexing go faster. So that's something we knew, but you can see this now shows up here in beta 3. So it will be, not affecting your battery life or anything like that after the first little bit. So don't expect this to really make it, worse in terms of performance and battery life, but there is now indexing and a new phrase, a little new screen here instead of just saying indexing. So again, this screen was there in beta 2. I just never received it myself until beta 3. But we should also talk about the Siri bubble or the Siri orb, because that has a new colorful reflection now when you invoke it. So take a look at this. Take a look at beta 2 on the left, beta 3 on the right. You can see that beneath the orb here on beta 3, there's kind of a rainbow effect, kind of some color coming out from the bottom of that orb, whereas on beta 2, there was no color. It's kind of just vague and kind of just, it wasn't really any color. It's kind of a shadow, and that was it in beta 2. But in beta 3, we now have the shadow along with some color kind of leaking out underneath of it, and it goes onto the content beneath it. And speaking of Siri, we have a few changes in our Siri settings as well. So that's starting with the app icon. So the app icon up top in the upper left now shows Siri in a light color, and it also has a new beta badge below it on the lower right hand side, whereas before it just said Siri AI and in parentheses beta. Now it just says Siri. It doesn't even say Siri AI anymore. It just says Siri, and beta is now embedded in the new app icon above it. It's kind of just an inverted icon, but that is a change there up there. Now also, if we go down to expressive voices preview, if we have this turned on, this is actually now works now. So in beta 2, beta 1 and 2, you could see everything was grayed out, but now in beta 3, it is no longer grayed out, and we can now customize and tweak the pace and the expressivity of the Siri voice on our device. Now, as of right now, this is only available for the American voice. That is still grayed out. That is still the only one that you can tweak, but we do have 2 different voices, and you can customize both of those. So the first one is a lady's voice, so I'll let you hear that.
I'll practice some things I like. I'll practice some things I like to say while you listen. I'll practice some things I like to say while you listen.
And then we have the male voice as the yellow number 2.
Your timer is set for 1 minute. Your timer is set for 1 minute. Now for some directions. At the next stop sign, turn right.
So that is a great new addition to be able to change the pace and the expressivity for your Siri voice. So hopefully this comes to other voices and accents in the future betas. And if we go down to the bottom of the Siri settings, before in beta 2, it said more in accessibility settings, ... Now it just says accessibility settings, and that's it. It goes to the same spot, but the wording has been changed. Now, if we go into our lock screen here, you'll see that the little shortcut icons here on the lock screen now have more white. It's a little bit more opaque behind it now than it was beforehand, even though these are both set to the very minimum for liquid glass, like the most glassy effect. These have less of a glassy effect now behind these controls, and you'll also see that when you go to customize as well. So we go to customize up here, take a look at the buttons up in the top. So the cancel and done buttons now also have a little bit more white behind them. They're easier to read, even on the minimum amount of liquid glass. Or actually, what I should say is that it's the most liquid glass, but it's the least on the slider. So it's all the way down to 0 on the slider. better. Now you also notice a little change in here as well. If we go in, you can see that this little animation here goes all the way down to this section, whereas in beta 3, it does not go down as far. There's a change to the keyboard when you go to paste something that you previously copied. So of course, one of the big new features in the keyboard is that it now shows a quick way to paste whatever you have copied to your clipboard. Now in beta 3, you can see that paste from messages beneath that is not as bold as the actual content that's going to be pasted. Also in beta 2, it showed what was going to be pasted. Now in beta 3, it just says item, which that appears to be a bug for now. Heading into the music application, if you go over to the search tab right here, you'll notice that the search now stays persistent up top, whereas before search would just disappear and you'd have to go all the way up to the top to get it back, or just tap search again down there at the bottom. But now search stays at the top the entire time, so you can easily tap up there and get to searching. There's also a couple of UI changes in the music application on the now playing screen. So you can see to the right of the song, we have the favorite and the 3 dots right there. Before, those had a backdrop behind them, a little background. Now those are missing. It's now more of a clean look over here. Now heading into the shortcuts application, take a look down at the bottom when we go to create a new shortcut. Before, it was a blue button that had a plus and it said new shortcut next to it. But now in beta 3, that's been changed to a liquid glass button in the middle that's just a circle with a plus. It does not have any text and it's no longer blue. So it changed there. And when you tap on that to go to create the shortcut, you'll see some changes here as well. Most notably, the fact that it now says edit up in the top right corner instead of before where it just had those 3 little rectangles, which could be confusing if you did not know what you're doing. Also down in the text field right here, before there were 3 dots after describe a shortcut. Now it just says describe a shortcut without the 3 dots. And then when you tap on the name of the shortcut up top, these options are no longer grayed out. So before, duplicate all the way down to share were grayed out if you didn't actually change anything in here, but now you can still do that even if the shortcut is empty. And then also if you go to choose icon, there's a slight change here as well. And that is just that we have an X now in the upper left hand corner, whereas before we had a little pull down at the top middle, as you can see above the icon. That's no longer there. That was kind of how we just got rid of it, by swiping down. You can still do that now in beta 3, but there's now an X in the upper left hand corner to make that a little bit more easy to understand. I also noticed that when you describe a shortcut that you want to make, that it gives you more options and kind of more inspiration in beta 3, and it also formats it better here compared to beta 1 and beta 2 on the left. I asked the same query for both of these, and you can see those are the 2 different responses it gave me. And if we go into the shortcut settings, there's also a new change here for open shortcuts 2. So this section didn't even exist in betas 1 or 2, but now we have an open shortcuts 2 option to open up to describe a shortcut or open up to the editor. So if I go ahead and select on editor and I go back to shortcuts and I go to add, you can see it pulls up the original section here. So like when you go to build a shortcut on your own without natural language, this is what it looked like before in previous versions of iOS. You can now set that as the default if you're more of a professional when it comes to building shortcuts, or if you just want to go back to describing a shortcut, when you go to add new, it will open up to the page that we saw with beta 1 and 2. And if you go down a little bit, you'll see another new option here that says 4 shortcuts on this device aren't currently in your library, so you can restore those shortcuts that are not in my library on this device. So if you maybe deleted something on accident, but it's on your other devices, you can restore it to this device. Also in beta 3, if you try to go into the Siri tab right here without having the new Siri enabled, it will not actually let you go to this section. So it requires the new Siri to use the Siri mode inside of your camera app. And there's also a really small change in photos. You guys know I have to mention every change, even if it's super small. So if you go to extend on an image here, you'll see that before in beta 2 and beta 1, it just showed this right here. It said pinch to zoom out or adjust the crop to add more to your scene. But you can see now in beta 3, it actually shows the extend button right away at the bottom. So before it didn't show that. And also you can see that up top, it doesn't say extend. Before in beta 2, it showed extend up here at the top and then it showed the description on there. You'd have to actually move this before you saw the extend. So if I move out a little bit, then you see extend. But now in beta 3, it pops up right away. So I'll show you that one more time. So if we go to extend right here, you can see the extend button right away. And at beta 3, did not see that in beta 2. Beta 3 also fixes messages in iCloud. So a lot of people had issues with this not syncing properly or syncing at all, but that has been resolved here in beta 3. Also in the home app, you can see this is what the update for the Apple TV looks like. So this is a feature in beta 2 where you could update your Apple TV from the home application on your iPhone, but I used somebody else's screenshot because it wasn't working for me in beta 2, but now it was working in beta 3. So I wanted to show you again from my own device. So this is what it looks like, update available, and it shows the Apple TV along with the size size. And if we go into the home application, you can see if I go to updated recently, it will show my Apple TV down there at the bottom, which was updated recently. That's a big new feature. It saves you from having to go down and turn on your TV, go to update. You can just do it all from your phone, which is really nice. But one thing I'm not thrilled about is the fact that the wallet's insights have been removed. So now if I go up here to the three dots in the wallet application, you can see that insights has been completely removed. In beta 2, that was available. It didn't work properly, but if I go into my wallet application on beta 2 here and go up top, you can see that we had insights before. If I tapped on that, that would allow you to see your spending insights and more. It didn't work, like I said, at least not for me in the US, but now in beta 3, it's just been completely removed as Apple continues to work on that. So I would expect it to be added back, maybe with the public beta, maybe with the next beta, or even the one after that, but it's not there in beta 3, unfortunately. Also in photos, if you have some food, you can see that when you swipe up on it, we have a new glyph icon for nutrition. So where it says look up nutrition over there on the left-hand side, it used to just have a search icon. Now it has a fork and a knife for that. And if you tap on that, it will do the nutritional data. We also have two new splash screens in beta 3. So we have a Find My one that shows us flexible location sharing, redesigned Apple Watch app, and location improvement. So all those are features we've seen in previous betas, but we just have this new splash screen. And then also one for Apple TV that tells us about F1 on Apple TV and MLS included with Apple TV. Again, nothing new, but the splash screen itself is new for both of these. And if you have an Apple Watch, you should definitely update to watchOS 27 beta 3 because the new Siri AI and the new standalone Siri application have been added to the Apple Watch. So you can do something with Siri on your iPhone and pick up where you left off on your Apple Watch. So that is nice. And then also, if you update to the new macOS 27 beta 3, there are new wallpapers and screensavers, as you can see right here, for the Golden Gate Bridge. So those have been added as well for other operating systems. Now, if we take a look at the release notes for iOS 27 beta 3, you can see it's quite extensive as expected for one of the first few betas of a big update like this. But some of the ones that stood out to me are this one with files right here. So it says deleting files from recently deleted may sometimes fail with an error or be really slow. There's also a known issue with keyboard where it says unlocalized text can appear for paste candidates, and a fix for that is to reboot. And when it says unlocalized text, that means that when you go right here where you see it says item, some users were reporting that it showed like a string of code right there. That's what it's referring to when it says unlocalized text. And if you want to fix that, just simply reboot your device. And there's also a known issue for the status bar where it may appear blurred while apps are foregrounded. And there are quite a few other ones in here as well. Like always, I will leave this linked down in the description below if you want to read through all of the new features, changes, bugs, and bug fixes. Now, as far as performance goes on iOS 27 beta 3, performance so far has been excellent. I mean, really, beta 2 really blew me away. I talked about this a few times in Apple Weekly and really in the What's New video. Performance has been stellar so far on iOS 27. It's really hard to complain. So I haven't had any lag or any type of random issues yet after a few hours of using this. So performance so far is really good. I did also run a Geekbench test here, and you can see what we scored compared to the previous beta right down here. So it is higher on both single core and multi-core. So that is always a good sign. It's not always indicative of if it's going to be better or not, but it is always a positive sign to see better single core and multi-core scores. And then when it comes to battery life, I started off with 100% when I first started this video, and it's now been about 50 minutes, and you can see I'm only down to 97%. So I've only lost 3% in almost an hour of constant use with my device on the entire time and going through all these different features. So I don't know. It seems like battery life might actually be better than what it was in beta 2, which was actually really good in beta 2. It wasn't quite on the level of iOS 26 just yet, but it's getting there. And I think battery life is going to be pretty good here in beta 3 as well, if not better. But of course, like always, this is still a beta, so things could go wrong. They will go wrong. I would not recommend installing this on a main device unless you are willing to accept those risks and you're able to deal with them accordingly. I always have this on a test device. I do use it on my main device as well, but I always update first on a test device just because I know this is a beta. But anyways, let's talk about what to expect next, because the next release is going to be an important one because I think a lot of people are going to jump on iOS 27 once we get the public beta, which should be out next week. So next week is the week of July 13th. That is when I would expect Apple to release the first public beta for iOS 27. And that's the one that I usually recommend people start with when doing a beta test on their device. So we should be seeing that next week, and that will be followed up with the fourth developer beta and public beta 2, most likely on the week of July 20th. So we should see that maybe on Monday or Tuesday. Apple typically sticks to those Monday releases though. So that's what it's looking like for now. And then of course we will have the final release at some point in probably the second half of September. So we don't know for sure just yet, but it's typically in the second half of September. Of course, it's going to be around the time of the new iPhones releasing. So typically they release on the Monday and the iPhones release on the Friday. So we'll know once Apple announces when the new iPhones will be released. So that is iOS 27 Beta 3. Let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments below, especially with the new expressivity and pace for Siri. Let me know what you think about that and the changes to liquid glass. And of course, always let me know about your performance and your battery life. I'm always curious and I read every single comment on all of my videos. But if you guys enjoyed this one, give it a comment. Also give it a thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed for all of my iOS 27 coverage. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.